This is the Prestigious Initiative. Welcome. I'm Chris Bean, and here with me is Chris Kent. Hello, Mr. Kent.
Hello, sir.
Today, we are going to continue talking about creativity, and today, specifically, we're going to talk about cultivating a creative environment. Having an environment, and we've talked about this a little bit before, but having an environment that is specific or that is set up for the specific needs of said activity, I think, is incredibly beneficial. And today, as we dive into designing your physical space to cultivate creativity, of course, your physical environment can have a significant impact on how creative you are. If you are in that environment and you are, distracted by whatever else is going on, if it's loud, if you are, in that environment pulled to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, whatever other things that are there, it can hinder any type of creativity that may come to you. And so when you are trying to be creative, perhaps step back and creatively design your physical space to help you be more creative. What are some ways you could do that? Well, perhaps in your creative space, you have visual things that are also creative. You have paintings, you have, artwork that is creative in nature. And in doing so, that will inspire you to be more creative. Of course, everybody is different. Me specifically, I don't think I could go to a coffee shop and be creative. I know people that, they go to a coffee shop because they feel that's their environment to be creative. I am not one of those people. And so perhaps when we talk about designing your space to help allow or to foster better creativity, knowing oneself and how you specifically are creative and what areas you are more creative in, if the space is even relevant. I think the space would be at least moderately relevant to anybody. But again, maybe you're that person that works well at the coffee shop. That is not me. Could not do that. I have to have, isolation. I would be like in solitary confinement to do this stuff. But anyways, knowing that about yourself, I think is step number one. And then number two is, in whatever space that you're in, help to foster those creative ideas. Again, maybe you put artwork that you find creative up. Maybe you play music that helps spark inspiration to you. There's so many different avenues of approach to this. But I would say step number one is finding your own creative style. Perhaps isn't the right term or phrase, but finding what works for you. And then to go out and pull the strings and make your space suit what you need.
Once again, we run into the ultimate caveat of most things that we talk about here, which is that every person is going to be different and you need to find out what works for you. So like Mr. Bean, like you said, sometimes going to a coffee shop is good for a handful of people, but for another handful of people in the same environment, they're not going to be as creative because it's too loud or too distracting. There's too much going on. Some people need that much going on, and they need that ability, or they need to be able to engage the ability of tuning that out in order to hone in on their creativity. And so some people, might prefer a dark creative space. Not so dark they can't see, but less light on, or, softer light, harsher light even, a bright experience, a cluttered experience, an organized experience. It all just depends on who you are as a person, and be able to find out what works well for you. And I like that you said, Mr. Bean, that you should creatively create your creative space. And it sounds silly to say it like that, but take the act or the assignment of designing your creative space as a creative endeavor, because I think that's, again, just going to instill different creative elements into what you're doing. So when you're trying to be creative with what you're creating so that you can create more things, being in that mindset is going to allow you to implement things that are in line with that kind of mindset. So you mentioned, creative artwork or a creative vision board or plants or pictures that put you in a good mood, or lighting that puts you in a good mood, or if you want to have some music on, you got a record player, a CD player, a speaker or whatever it is, or if you want it quiet and you want it clean, and put as little as you can on your desk or your space and get your noise canceling headphones or whatever it is. But be creative with the process of setting up that environment to help you be more creative and have those different things there that are going to help to inspire and energize your personal creativity. And so I wish I could give you a 1, 2, 3 step plan to say, here, do this, this, and this. Now be more creative. But each person's different and you have to do the work for yourself. But I think it's going to help set you up for even better of a creative experience, and maybe even easier to kind of lock into that creative flow if you have a space that's designed literally with the intention of being more creative and setting yourself up for that creativity as well.
And speaking of music, and I do this, and I don't know that I've talked about this before, but I have a specific I have several specific playlists, like any probably normal person, but I have a specific playlist that is one type of music, and I listen to that specific type or that specific playlist that is that specific genre of music when I do X. And so let me give you for example, I have a jazz playlist, and most of the jazz songs don't have words, or some have a little bit of words, but it's just kind of music. It's just sound. And I listen to that playlist, that jazz playlist, when I am doing tedious, monotonous type of computer work. If I'm sitting down at the computer and I know this is going to be, not tiresome isn't necessarily the right word, but tedious. I got to do this over and over and over again, or whatever that type of I guess, I had, so even more specific, at work, we had a program, and I had to put in videos to the program on how to do. We teach martial arts as our quote unquote day job. I say quote unquote because we don't really do it during the day. It's kind of in the evening time. But anyways, we had to put in videos of how to do those specific moves so the students could watch them. And for example, the move number 1, I had to put in for, let's see, white, yellow, orange. Like there's like 15 times I had to put in that one video. And then the second video I had to put in again 15 times. And the next video I had to put in 14 times. And so it was the same thing over and over and over again. And for whatever, I guess maybe this isn't necessarily creative, but designing my space and my surroundings, I put those headphones on and I hit play on that playlist, and it would play the jazz. And when I was listening to that playlist, I was ready to do that tedious, monotonous drone type work over and over and over again. For whatever reason, I associate, and even now sometimes if I have to go back to modify that kind of setup that we have, or if I have to add things to it, I'll put that playlist on because it puts me in the zone to do that type of work. And so don't overlook the acoustic qualities of your space, not just visual. Of course, visual is hugely important as far as how cluttered it is, how clean it is, the artwork that you have hanging up or whatever, but the sound of your environment is really important to that as well. And so much so that you could have a sound, again, for me, I have that jazz. If I listen to that jazz, it puts me in the mindset to do that type of computer work.
And you don't listen to that music any other time, do you?
Correct. Yes.
That's the one time.
Yes.
That helps to put you in that space. And that brings us in kind of the next point here is we talked about setting up your physical space, and you've already proved that you have a lot to say on this because you're much more into it than I am. But you can also use those digital tools, the music. You talked about many tools you use for organizing or things you use on your computer or tablet. I think we're not moving into, we are in a digital age, and it's crucial that we can use those digital tools to help optimize our space and our mindset for creativity, And so music can help, different apps can help you with your organization, different scheduling apps or calendars or note-taking apps or Google, even social media can be important because, it can help you to
Spark the creative idea.
inspiration. Yeah, you gather inspiration from your social media too. So don't neglect the digital age. And, last episode we talked about creative blocks, and in the previous episode too, we even talked about removing distractions, which I think is part of setting up your physical space. And if social media is a distraction for you, limit it. Don't go on it for 30 minutes. Go on it for 3 minutes. Try to find a few things that inspire you and run with that inspiration, like we talked about again in the last episode. Run with it. Let yourself unfiltered kind of experience that creative flow and then go with it. So as much as your physical space is important, having the tools and the digital things that can help us, or even physical, could be an actual book or magazine or something that you can hold physically in your hands as well too. But use your tools to help you in this creative environment. Maybe before you sit down and try to be creative, you spend 5 minutes researching some inspiration, and then let that kind of direct your flow for the day. So not all of this is limited just to what's around you and where you are, but also the tools you have. And especially now, the digital tools are a big factor as well.
I think perhaps having a digital tool and using your digital devices as tools could be an entire episode that we'll do later on. I feel as if I have a lot of ideas or whatever to say on that. But in regards to being creative, have perhaps have what does our boss call a swipe folder, where he will see something that he liked from somewhere else, and he'll take a picture of it and he'll put it in one area, and he'll all of those, and then he'll collect this whole database of different ideas or ways other people have solved this type of problem or that do this type of thing, and he'll use that folder as the home for all those ideas. Again, we talked about this before. I'm a huge fan of Notion. In Notion, I have a tag database, and I will tag specific videos that I watch or podcast or news articles that I read or whatever. I will tag them. I'll save them. I will tag them specifically, or I will tag them to 12 different things if they're overlapping. And all of those things I can view at anytime, because I have Notion on all of my devices. And so if I wanted ideas or if I have a creative problem that I need help solving, I can go to my vault of database for the tags. Okay, here's my tag on creative thinking. Here's my tag on leadership. Here's my tag on discipline. Here's my tag on whatever it is, and all of that stuff lives in there. And I use those creative tools to my advantage. And I think that sometimes a lot of people use their they use their digital tools as distraction measures, meaning they use those things to take them away from the real world. And I do not interact with my devices in the same way as those people. My devices I see as tools to help to learn and grow and expand and pull in other resources that other people have and read through those or watch videos or whatever it is. And I collect those things. For me, I use Notion. I collect all those things and I put them into their own quadrants of areas, and then I can pull that information out. And the nice thing is, again, digital tools, we need to do a whole episode on this, but there's so many different caveats of using your digital tools to your advantage, not just in housing creative ideas, but also you can use your digital tools to come up with inspiration for new ideas. You can use your digital tools, something that I like, and it's a relatively new idea, just past couple of years, is having templates for specific things that happen on a normal basis, right? If you have let's say you produce YouTube videos, or you produce podcasts. This is, relevant to us, maybe not to other people, but relevant to us. We have a template that we use when we make our podcasts. We have and we have a set way that we come up with the title and the description for all of our episodes. And it's a template. We use it over and over again. And coming up with that template was not super easy to do, but and building that out. But once it's there, it almost works for itself. You just plug and play the relevant information. Okay, boom, done. Right? So having templates for the things that happen on a normal type basis, whether you're making YouTube videos, you're making podcasts, or you're scripting a play, you're writing a book, whatever it is, I'm sure you have things that you do that are creative endeavors that happen frequently over and over and over again. Come up with a template that you can do that will help you design, or that template will be designed to help you create whatever it is, whether that's help you come up with the creative ideas, whether that's help you with the creative planning for that idea, whether that's the implementation of that idea, whatever it is. But having a template for that is so helpful. And use your digital tools for that, whether it's Apple Notes or Notion or Obsidian or whatever it is that you have a template that is designed for that specific purpose. And that is far and away huge when it comes to doing whatever it is. Even if it happens, 5 times a year, have a template for that. Then you don't have to try to rebuild it and it's different every time. And, oh man, I liked how I did last time, but this time no, have a template for it. Every single time is the same because you follow the same format, the same template for it. It just, yeah. A whole digital tools. I can go for a while on those. Sorry.
Yes, sir. No, I think that ties into the kind of last topic we wanted to talk about, and maybe we don't even need to dive into it right now, but being rigid and specific and consistent when you're dealing with creativity, especially having rituals and practices. We talked about this a lot in the first episode even too, and we've talked about it previously on other episodes as well. So again, maybe we won't dive too deep into it, but having your rituals and practices can help you to create that, or to cultivate that creative mindset and foster that sense of discipline. Think of the power of the morning routines or mindful practices and the benefits of scheduling dedicated creative time, as we mentioned before previously. So I don't think we really need to dive into that again too, but also implement those into your creative environments. And, the space you go to sit down and do these things can be helpful in fostering your creativity as well.
Yeah, rituals and practices are something that I think often gets overlooked. Again, I agree. We did a fair deep dive on rituals and practices. If you haven't checked that episode out, I would go back and check that out. But having a specific set of things that you do before X happens, or if you're getting into your creative zone, or whether that's mentally, physically, or however else you interact with it, but have a specific set of things that you do before that happens is hugely beneficial. So, again, rituals and practices are very important, whether that's being creative or, cleaning your house or whatever it is that you're doing. Having specific rituals and practices that you follow to a T or really close every single time you do X, very important. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, be prestigious.